I'll just talk, I guess. If I try to make it tidy or dramatic, it comes out fake. And trust me, nothing about this felt fake when it was happening. This happened earlier this year, like late February into March. I've got this weird little hobby of messing with old PC stuff, cases, motherboards, those chunky beige towers from the early 2000s that people toss out. It's usually just relaxing, like some people do puzzles. I do obsolete hardware. I bought this old computer casing from a guy online, from a local marketplace listing. The pictures looked all right, a bit dusty. The guy selling it lived only about 15 minutes from me. His messages were short, really short, like one-word replies, but I didn't think much of it because people are weird online. So I go to pick it up. It was around 6 in the evening. The guy opens the door before I even knock, like he was waiting behind it. He looked normal, but there was this awkwardness about him. Like he kept shifting his weight, glancing behind him into his house as if he had something going on inside. I just assumed he was in the middle of cooking or something. We exchanged the case. I handed him the cash. He nodded silently, and that was that. The interaction couldn't have lasted more than 30 seconds. I didn't even catch his name. When I got home, I put the casing on my work desk, didn't touch it for a couple hours, and went about my night. Later on, I started cleaning it out, dusting, checking the screw mounts, that sort of thing. I noticed something rattling inside when I tilted it. I thought it was just a loose screw. When I opened it up, there was this small, plain black USB stick wedged up against one of the drive bays. Just a scratched black shell. I honestly didn't think it was anything interesting. Half the time people leave old Windows installers or school assignments on these things. I plugged it into my laptop. It popped up instantly. Final Fantasy. Not the game, obviously. The folder name was weirdly typed, like someone typed it fast and didn't care. Inside, there were 12 MP4 files, all named in this really strange way. Final Fantasy 01, Final Fantasy 02, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy 3, scrambled numbers, no order. The thumbnails were all black. I don't know why, but the randomness of the numbering bothered me more than the names. Something about it looked wrong. Like whoever made them wasn't organizing them for themselves, but organizing them for someone else. I clicked the first one. It opened to this shaky night vision view of what looked like the side of a house. The recording was angled upward through a window, and inside, a woman sleeping, just sleeping. On her side, hair covering part of her face. Nothing happening, except the person holding the camera was breathing too loud, like they were right up against the glass. Not just breathing, almost this trembling inhale, slow but shaky, like someone trying not to make noise but failing. The video ended after like 30 seconds. The second video was the same woman, different night, judging by the clothes she had thrown over a chair inside the room. The curtains were slightly different too, like she'd tugged them more shut but not fully. Same angle from outside, same heavy breathing. This time the camera panned downward a bit, and I realized the person was practically pressed to the window frame. The top of the camera showed a reflection of a forehead. Just barely. That's when I got that feeling, like your shoulders tighten on their own. I just sat there staring at the screen. The third video, this one was really creepy, because the woman turned in her sleep. She faced the window for a second, and the camera immediately jerked back, like whoever was filming panicked. You could hear the sound of leaves crunching under someone's foot as they stepped back. It ended abruptly. I had this urge to close the laptop, but at the same time I couldn't stop. I clicked another file, one of the later ones, Final Fantasy 12, I think. The thumbnail was still black, but when it opened, it wasn't the woman anymore. It was a basement, or some kind of unfinished room. Concrete walls, pipes overhead, soft humming from something electrical. In the center was a mattress on the floor, stained, flattened in the middle, no sheets. The camera wasn't steady this time. It shifted around like the person was pacing. You could hear breathing again, but this time it didn't sound close to the mic, more like it was echoing slightly in the room, almost like the person was recording one-handed and breathing through their mouth. There was no one on the mattress, but the atmosphere of the video, it felt wrong in a way I still can't really explain. Something about the emptiness of the room made it worse, like someone had been there recently. There was another sound too, almost too faint to notice at first, like the soft scrape of bare feet on concrete, but it wasn't coming from the person filming. It was off to the left somewhere, quiet, uneven, like someone shifting their weight very slowly. I paused the video. I didn't want to keep watching. My brain started doing that thing where it tries to make excuses. Maybe it's old art project stuff, maybe someone's weird short film, maybe it's fake. But my stomach was tight, and I kept thinking about the way that guy opened his door so fast when I picked up the case. I took the USB out of my laptop and just set it aside. I told myself I'd figure out what to do tomorrow. Except tomorrow came too soon. Around 10 in the morning, I hear a knock at my door. When I open it, there's the same guy from yesterday, standing on my porch like he'd been rehearsing his posture. He didn't smile, he didn't say hi. He just asked, "Did you find anything else in that casing?" The way he said it, his voice wasn't threatening or angry. It was tight, like he was trying to sound casual, but there was something coiled underneath it. Something urgent. I pretended I hadn't found anything. I don't know why I lied. Something told me it was the right choice. Then he said, "Okay, enjoy it then." No expression, just turned and walked down my driveway, didn't even look back. I watched him get into his car, a dark little car that looked older than the PC case I bought. He sat there for a moment before driving off, like he was thinking. After he left, I actually debated giving him the USB, just to get rid of it. But something felt off, like handing it over would make something worse, not better. I hid the USB in a drawer and tried to forget it. That lasted one night. The next day, I got home from work around 6:30, opened my back door to let some fresh air in, except the door was already open. Instantly, my whole chest tightened. I stood there frozen, listening for any noise in the house. My first thought wasn't someone's here. It was don't say anything. Like I didn't even want whoever was here to hear me breathing. I checked every room, slowly. I don't think I've ever been that aware of my own footsteps in my entire life. But everything looked fine. Nothing knocked over, nothing out of place, except when I got to my desk, the drawer where I'd put the USB was pulled open about 2 inches. Barely noticeable unless you knew it had been shut. The USB was gone. My wallet? Still there. Cash inside? Still inside. My MacBook? On the table. Untouched. TV? Fine. Nothing else had been touched. Just that one drawer. Just that one thing. I didn't call the police. I should have. You know, this sounds ridiculous even in my head. I kept waiting for something else to happen, for the guy to come back, or message me, or anything, but nothing ever did. He never contacted me again. He never listed anything else online. He just disappeared. It's been months now, and I haven't bought anything secondhand since. I don't even pick up packages without checking the driveway first. The weirdest part is how normal life went back to afterwards, like the whole thing was some glitch in my routine. But I think about it constantly, enough that it feels like an unfinished sentence sitting in the back of my head. I don't know what was on the rest of the videos. I don't want to know. You know, the way that man looked at me when he asked if I found anything else, it still makes me uneasy to think about. Nothing happened afterwards, which somehow makes the whole thing worse. Because if someone is willing to break into a house and take only a single USB, nothing valuable, nothing traceable, then whatever was on that thing, it wasn't meant to be found by anyone, and I wish I never had. That's honestly the scariest thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't think anything else will ever top it. Not in a good way, not ever. This wasn't awkward, it was messed up, and I was there by myself, like an idiot. So this was late. I don't remember the exact date. I'm bad with that stuff. But it was cold enough that my fingertips hurt when I didn't have gloves on, and the ground had that crunchy frost that doesn't fully melt even in the afternoon. The job site was out in one of those famous creepy rural spots people online talk about. Long stretches of road where you pass like one house every 10 minutes, and even those look abandoned. I'm a subcontractor, flooring, drywall, cleanup, whatever the job needs. This site was just an old 2-story house somebody wanted renovated. I don't know why. The place had this sagging porch, and the windows were all mismatched sizes, like somebody replaced them over the years with whatever they found on sale. No neighbors close by. Tree line on all sides, barely any cell signal. It already felt wrong pulling up. I got there way earlier than I had to. I don't know why. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I just woke up, couldn't go back to sleep, figured I'd get the day over with. The sky was still dark. You can't tell how cold it actually is yet. Anyway, I unlocked the front door, walked inside, turned on the little battery lantern I brought because the power wasn't hooked up yet. I was just setting my bag down, thinking about making coffee in the thermos I had when I heard knocking at the door. And it wasn't like a polite little tap. It was like someone impatient. I literally thought, who the hell else is this early? We were supposed to start at 8. Nobody ever shows up before 7, ever. Most guys barely slide in on time, so I figured, okay, someone else had insomnia too. I went over and opened the door without really thinking, and there was this guy standing there, not one of ours. Not even close, just some man I had never seen before in my entire life. He didn't look homeless, but he had that kind of look, like someone who's been living rough or hasn't slept indoors in a while. Thin jacket, the kind that does nothing in cold weather, jeans that were stiff with dirt, and this blank expression like he wasn't totally plugged in. I just stared at him and went, can I help you? What are you doing here, man? He just kind of blinked once, slow like he was processing, and then he turned around and walked away, straight toward the tree line. I was thinking it was creepy, yeah, but I'm not the type who jumps at weird people. Places have weird people. Construction brings weird people. I've seen guys wander onto job sites thinking they're stealing copper, then realize we already ripped out the wiring and leave. So I just locked the door and shrugged it off. For the next few hours, nothing happened. I swept some of the living room, moved some boards, just normal stuff. The sun came up, birds started doing whatever birds do. I forgot about the guy completely, but it was later, after the sun dipped again, when everything got messed up. It was maybe 6. It gets dark stupid early that time of year. I decided to sit for a minute because my knee was acting up. I was on this old flipped over bucket we were using as a stool. I had a granola bar half open in my hand, and then I heard this sound on glass. The kind of sound you don't immediately notice until you hear it twice. I thought it was a branch, or an animal. I hadn't fully turned around yet, but I felt something behind me, like when someone watches you quietly and your brain picks it up before your eyes do. When I finally twisted around to look at the window, he was there, the same man. Standing so close his breath should have fogged the glass, except I couldn't even tell if he was breathing. He just stared at me with the same flat expression, like he was thinking about something but not forming any actual thoughts. I jumped up and yelled, "Dude, what the hell? Get out of here!" Still nothing from him. Just kept staring. Not blinking this time. That got me mad. Not scared. At least not then. Just mad. Because I hate when people act weird for no reason. I'd been working all day. My hands hurt. My back hurt. I just wanted to finish the job and go home. So I stormed toward the window and banged on the inside of it with my fist and shouted, I said, "Get the hell out! Go on!" He didn't flinch, but he turned away, slowly, and he walked back toward the woods again. Same direction as before, same limp walk, same everything. I grabbed my phone, which had maybe 1 or 2 bars if I held it near the window, and called one of the other guys, Frank. He's usually the first one to show up for morning shifts and the last one to leave. I told him what happened, expecting him to go, "Oh yeah, that's probably so-and-so, the local nut case or something." But he just said, "Man, we don't know anybody like that out there. Nobody lives on that stretch. Maybe call someone if he comes back." "When if?" I said. "He's already been here twice." Frank didn't have much to say after that. I could tell he was confused, maybe a little uncomfortable. He doesn't like conflict. I hung up and went to the window again. Pitch black now, the lantern behind me reflecting faintly off the glass. I couldn't see anything outside. Trees looked like black walls. I was pissed, like genuinely pissed. I yelled out the window into the darkness, "If you're still out there, leave me the hell alone. I swear to God, if you come back, I'm going to do something I regret." I didn't even know what I meant by that. I'm not some tough guy. I was just tired. I locked all the doors, even the back one that barely closed right, and basically stayed awake the whole night. Didn't even sit down again. I kept walking from room to room like I was patrolling the place. I don't know why. Probably adrenaline. Nothing else happened that night. Nothing knocked. Nobody showed up. It was almost like he'd never been there. Morning came, gray and dull, and I finally felt my body start to relax a little. I stepped outside to breathe real air and stretch my arms. The cold hit me so hard my eyes watered. I walked along the front porch, kicking at little clumps of frozen mud. Then I saw something weird in the dirt by the steps. Footprints, bare feet, in freezing weather. I stared at them for so long my coffee went cold. They led from the tree line straight to the front door, then back again, not even trying to hide it. I didn't know what to make of that. It bothered me way more than him showing up. Something about the way the toes were spaced. It just didn't look right. I didn't follow them at first. I just stood there, rubbing my forehead, feeling this dull ache behind my eyes. The whole place felt wrong, like the woods were listening or something. At some point I started wandering toward the tree line, mostly because I needed to clear my head. My coworkers were supposed to arrive in a couple hours. I figured I'd walk a little, shake off the night, maybe laugh about it when they got here. I stepped over these damp leaves, heard twigs snapping under my boots, smelled that wet, decaying pine smell that almost burns your nose. But then I heard a woman screaming. Just this ragged, terrified shout. Real, raw, human. It came from deeper in the trees. My whole body locked up. Then something rustled hard through the branches. Fast, running, snapping sticks like they were nothing. I saw movement between the trees. Someone bolting past, half hidden by brush. Couldn't see their face. Couldn't see much of anything except their arm, which had blood smeared all down it, fresh and dark and wet. And even though the scream was a woman's scream, the person running wasn't a woman. It was a man. I could tell by the build, the shoulders, the way he moved. He didn't look back at me, didn't stumble, didn't make a sound except for the noise of his feet tearing through brush. I don't know if it was the same man from the window. I want to say it wasn't, because the idea that it was makes everything 1,000 times worse. Everything in me started buzzing, like panic mixed with anger mixed with confusion. My knees felt weak, but my chest felt tight, and I remember blurting out loud, "Nope. Nope. I'm done. Screw this." I backed up fast, didn't even realize I was stepping in mud until I slipped a little. I turned around and jogged back to the house. Didn't care about losing money. I grabbed my bag, locked the front door even though it didn't matter, and got in my truck. My hands were shaking. I was watching the tree line in the rearview mirror, expecting someone to sprint out at me. I turned the key, reversed too fast, and drove until I got back to the main road. Called the contractor. Told him I quit that site. He asked why. I told him someone was lurking around and doing God knows what in the woods. He acted annoyed, said they'd check it out and that I shouldn't make a big thing out of it. I hung up on him. Haven't worked with him since. A couple days later, I heard from another guy that the project got delayed because someone broke into the house and trashed a bunch of equipment. Nobody caught who did it. Windows smashed, cabinets ripped off, weird symbols carved into drywall, stuff that wasn't there when I left. They blamed local vandals. But those footprints I saw, those were not vandal footprints. I don't even drive near it on accident. I don't care if there's a quicker route. Whatever was going on out there, I wasn't supposed to see any of it. I don't think anyone is. I still hear that woman scream, not because I'm scared of it, but because I never got answers. And I never will. I left the work. And honestly, I think that's the only reason I'm not missing like she probably is. So there's this forest area in northern Pennsylvania that my cousin kept telling me about. Not like famous, but anyone local kind of knows it has a weird vibe. I'm not talking ghost or any of that stuff. Just a place people don't go alone because the trails twist weirdly, and the trees grow in shapes that feel off, and at night the whole place gets so dark it feels like the shadows get stuck on you. But I wasn't there at night. It was mid-afternoon. Leaves everywhere. I'd been house-sitting for my uncle for the week, and I was honestly bored out of my mind. So I thought, yeah, whatever. Let me go for a long walk, get some air, move around. I parked at this gravel pull-off. The whole thing had potholes that could fit like small pets. Before I even stepped out of the car, I kind of noticed how quiet it was. Just unnatural. But I told myself not to overthink it, grabbed my water bottle, and started heading down one of the wider paths. I even played music out loud for a bit, but then it felt weird blasting songs in a place that didn't want noise, so I turned it off and let the forest do its thing. There was this spot where the trees thinned out and the ground dipped slightly, almost like an overgrown drainage ditch. And right, half on a rock, half hanging off it, was this torn shirt. I thought it was just something hikers dropped. People lose stuff all the time. But the way this shirt looked, it wasn't just torn like it got snagged. The fabric was stretched unevenly, almost shredded, and the edges weren't clean. They were frayed like someone tugged on them over and over. I walked closer and nudged it with my shoe. The dirt on it looked old, like it had been there for weeks, maybe months. But then the weird part was that directly next to it, like not even 2 feet away, was this really clean, bright-colored jacket, just sitting there folded. And not like the wind folded it. I mean, someone sat down and folded it like laundry. Right next to that was a backpack. One of those bigger travel backpacks you see at airports. Rounded top, lots of straps, looks like it could hold a whole apartment. It was leaning against a log, like someone had left it just for a second. And that was the part that got me, because the shirt looked abandoned, the jacket looked fresh, and the backpack looked placed. I didn't touch anything. Something in me was like, don't. Just don't. My mouth even felt dry suddenly, which was weird because I'd literally been sipping water. I kind of stood there just looking around. The trees were so still, it felt like they were holding their breath with me. I was listening so hard I could hear that ringing sound you get when everything else is too quiet. I finally decided I wasn't about to start playing detective in whatever situation this was. Maybe someone was camping weirdly close to the path. Maybe they went to get help. Maybe they went to the bathroom, whatever. It didn't matter. It felt wrong to be near it. So I turned around and started heading back. The walk back started normal. Well, regular for the first 2 minutes. Then halfway down the trail, I suddenly felt like something was behind me. And I know how that sounds, trust me. People feel watched all the time, but this was different. It wasn't paranoia. It was like when someone stands behind you in a narrow store aisle. I kept walking, glancing at the ground like I was checking for roots, but every few seconds I heard something behind me. Slight shifts, like someone adjusting their weight from one foot to the other. Leaves brushing, a dry twig cracking under slow pressure. At one point, curiosity just took over, and I turned my head slightly, pretending to look at a tree. And that's when I saw it, someone standing behind one of the trunks. Not directly in the open, just half visible, like they'd been that way for a while. I didn't get a clear look at their face, but I could see the outline of their head and shoulders. And what freaked me out the most was that they didn't move when I looked at them. Just watching. My whole chest felt like it dropped to my knees. I turned around and pretended like I didn't see anything. My legs started moving faster on their own. Every few seconds, the sounds behind me would fade, then start again, like the person was matching my pace on purpose. There was a point where the trail curved left around a dead tree, and for a second, I got the urge to just sprint and not stop. But I was scared that sprinting would make whoever that was follow faster, or get closer. When I finally reached the part of the trail where you can see the parking area through the trees, I swear I felt this huge wave of relief, like my whole body let out a breath it had been holding. I still didn't look back. I walked straight to my car, opened the door way too fast, threw myself inside, and locked it. I slowly pulled out onto the road, and once my tires hit the main stretch, I checked my rearview mirror for the first time since leaving the backpack area. There was nobody behind me. But, and maybe this is just my brain being dramatic, I'm pretty sure I saw something move near the tree line right as the forest disappeared behind me. Something tall. Something stepping back into the deeper part of the woods, like they were making sure I was leaving before they did whatever they were doing. I drove all the way back to my uncle's house without turning the radio on, without even rolling the window down. When my uncle got back, I told him what I saw. He said people sometimes live off trail in that area. Some of them aren't mentally stable, or they're trying to stay hidden for personal reasons. I don't know if the stuff I saw was connected to anything bigger. I don't know if the person behind the tree was the owner of the backpack or someone else. I don't know why they were following me or watching me, or why they didn't say anything. Every single thing about that backpack setup looked staged, intentionally arranged, and the person who was watching me didn't act surprised, didn't act caught. It felt like I was the one who interrupted them. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it would have just been an awkward encounter with some random hiker. Or maybe the person behind the tree wasn't alone. Maybe someone else was closer. Maybe someone was waiting for me to get distracted. I've been on a lot of hikes in my life. I've been alone in the woods more times than I can count. And I'm not a paranoid person. But that day felt wrong in a way I can't properly explain. Like the forest was telling me to get out. And the longer time passes, the more sure I am about one thing. If I had stayed there, even just a minute or two longer, something else would have happened. Something that wouldn't have ended with me walking back to my car.